If you're planning to buy a home in BC, there are costs the bank won't mention in your approval letter. Your realtor probably glosses over them, and most buyers find out about them when it's too late. Look, I've sat across the table from a lot of buyers over the years, and one of the most common things I hear after someone closes on their first home is this: nobody told me it was going to cost that much. And I get it. You spent months getting your down payment together, you got your pre-approval, you found the house, you're excited. But there's the thing, the purchase price on that listing, that's just the starting number. By the time you actually walk through that front door with your keys, you've typically spent a lot more than you budgeted for. So today, I'm going to do what I wish somebody had done for me very earlier on. Sit you down and walk you through every real cost you're going to face when buying a home in BC. Not the price, the total cost. Because the worst thing you can do is get caught off guard at the finish line. Okay, let's start with the big one, the one that shocks out of province buyers the most. It's called the property transfer tax, and in BC, every buyer pays it. Here's how it works. You pay 1% on the first $200,000, 2% on everything from $200,000 to $2 million, and 3% on anything above $2 million. So let's say you're buying a home in Langley for $900,000. You're paying $2,000 on the first $200,000 and $14,000 on the remaining $700,000. That's $16,000 on top of your purchase price before you even move in. Now, if you're a first-time buyer, there is an exemption, but here's the catch. As of right now, that exemption only applies if the home is priced under $835,000. So if you're buying in Langley, Surrey, anywhere in the Fraser Valley or Greater Vancouver, at that price point or above, you're paying PTT, period. This is the number that catches most buyers completely off guard, especially when they're moving from Alberta. Because in Alberta, there is no transfer tax. In BC, it's real, it's significant, and you need to have it ready in cash. Your mortgage does not cover it. The next one applies specifically to new builds and presale properties, and it's one of the most misunderstood costs out there. If you're buying a brand new home, a condo, a townhome, or a detached house, you are paying GST, 5% on the total purchase price. On a new townhome at $700,000, that's $35,000 in tax. Now there is partial rebate available for new builds under approximately $1 to $1.5 million, but you typically only see that reflected in the purchase price if the developer has already factored it in. Here's what you need to ask clearly before you sign any pre-sale contract: is the GST included in this price or is it on top? Because I've seen people sign agreements and then find out later that the number they thought was the full price was not the full price. The thing is, this is completely avoidable. You just have to ask the right question up front. Now let's talk about mortgage insurance. This one doesn't get enough attention. In Canada, if your down payment is less than 20% of the purchase price, your mortgage is insured by the CMHC, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. And that insurance, you pay for it. The premium gets added to your mortgage, so you're not writing a check, but you are paying it over the life of your loan. Here's how the math works. If your down payment is between 5 and 9.99%, you pay 4% of your total mortgage as an insurance premium. Between 10 and 4.99% down, 3.1%. 15 to 19.99% down, 2.8%. On a $900,000 home with 10% down, that's $810,000 mortgage. Multiplied by 3.1%, that's approximately $25,000 added to what you owe. and you're paying interest on that over 25 years or even 30 years depending on your mortgage. Look, I'm not saying don't use the CMHC. For a lot of buyers, it's the only path into home ownership, and that's completely okay. But you need to understand what you're actually taking on, because I've seen buyers plan their entire budget around their down payment and completely miss the number. Okay, moving on. These next ones are smaller, but they do add up fast. First, legal fees. You need a lawyer or a notary to complete your real estate transaction in BC. There's no way around it. You're typically looking at $1,500 to $3,000 for a standard purchase. Second, home inspection. A good home inspector in the Fraser Valley is going to run you between $600 and $1,500 for a larger home. And I want to say this clearly, do not skip the home inspection to make your offer more competitive unless you fully understand the risk you're taking on. A home inspection is not an obstacle, it's a protection. Third, if you're buying a condo or a townhome, you need to review the strata documents, the meeting minutes, the financials, the depreciation report. A lot of buyers I know hire a professional to do this. However, I do this as a complimentary service to all buyers, but I always do recommend they seek proper legal advice on it. That's another $400 to $600. Here's why you don't skip it. Inside those documents is information that could change everything. Special levies, ongoing disputes, deferred maintenance, things that look fine from the outside and just simply aren't. We're almost through the list, but I want to cover what I call the invisible day one costs, because these catch buyers off guard, even if they've done all their homework. Moving costs. Whether you're hiring a company or renting a truck, budget $2,000 to $5,000 for a local move. More if you're relocating from outside of the Lower Mainland. Title insurance. Most lenders require it. $300 to $500. Property tax adjustment. When you close, the seller may have already prepaid their property taxes for the year. You'll reimburse them for the portion that covers your time of home ownership. Budget $500 to a couple $1,000 depending on the purchase price and your closing date, of course. And then there's what I call first weekend spending, because no matter how move-in ready a home is, you're making a run to Home Depot. New locks, light fixtures, paint, minor repairs you didn't notice on the walkthrough. Honestly, budget at least $2,000 for this minimum. So let's put this all together. You're buying a home in Langley for $900,000, property transfer tax $16,000, legal fees $2,000, home inspection several $100s, strata document review, if applicable, $500 or more dollars, moving costs $3,000, title insurance $400, property tax adjustment $1,000, first weekend costs $2,000. That's approximately $25,000 on top of what you've already put down. And if you're buying new construction, add GST on top of all of that. This is the number nobody puts in front of you when you're shopping for homes. This is the number I put in front of every single buyer I work with before we even start looking. Because if you don't know this number before you make an offer, you can't plan for it. And if you can't plan for it, you're in trouble at the worst possible time. Look, I know this feels like a lot. And honestly, it is a lot. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But here's the thing. None of this should stop you from buying a home in the Fraser Valley or the Lower Mainland if it's the right move for you. It just means you need to go in with your eyes wide open, know the real number, have it ready, and work with someone who's going to be straight with you from day one, not just tell you what you want to hear. If you want me to walk you through what your full buying costs look like for your specific situation, there's a link right below this video to book a call. It costs you nothing and it could save you from a very expensive surprise. If this has helped you, hit the subscribe button. I make these videos for buyers and sellers in the Fraser Valley and the Lower Mainland every single week who want the straight story. See you in the next one.